All right, Bob is back. I know a lot of people, Bob, are encouraged to see the track kind of shifting to the right, you know, off
Right.
the,
Oh, yeah.
but this is such a big, powerful storm
Right.
that we can't let our guard down,
No,
regardless of where it goes.
Right, and you know, we look for hope. Obviously,
Yeah.
everyone does, and I know when I post that, you know, the GFS shifting east a little bit, a lot of people say it's great news. I think keep your fingers crossed that it stays there, but more and more the models are coming into alignment, and every time you see a little shift, even a little one, that means the Hurricane Center is thinking, yeah, okay, well, we better start thinking that way.
Right.
And there's less activity in the Gulf of Mexico. You know, we had a few models out there just yesterday that were indicating that it may go there. There's still a chance, don't get me wrong, that it could go there, but the chance of that happening is lessening as we move through time. The bad news is that Florida is going to get hit by this storm in one way or another. Maybe not a direct hit, and we're hoping for that, but in Miami, West Palm Beach, Boca, all those places there, they are just beside themselves because they're looking at this monster hurricane with 185-mile-an-hour winds, which is expected to move over water temperatures of 90 degrees before it makes that turn to the north. Weather headlines for us read like this. Again, we are continuing to stay in that cone of uncertainty. And even though if the cone of uncertainty moves away, doesn't mean we're out of the woods. It just means that's where the center of the storm could be from the point of where it is now. The current path is, again, late Sunday and Monday, the two biggest days and times for us. And I'm getting concerned about this last thing, the potential for flooding. Now, our ground is extremely saturated right now, especially in North Sarasota and South Manatee County. And any kind of rainfall, excessive rain and torrential rain that you get with tropical systems comes down at the rate of 2 to 3 inches an hour and can cause significant flooding in just a short period of time. So that's going to be an issue. Even if we don't see the hurricane force winds here, flooding, I think, is going to be a big issue for us. And we're not going to get the 30 to 40 inches of rainfall. No, none of that. But the roadways obviously will be covered like we saw with that big event we saw just a couple of weeks ago. Well, the latest again, 185, that hasn't changed, which is incredible. It makes it the strongest storm ever recorded on Earth in terms of tropical cyclones. So again, that's just an amazing fact. It's moving to the west-northwest at 16. It's already broken all sorts of records, by the way, the strongest storm ever recorded in the Atlantic and now in the Pacific or the Indian Ocean or anywhere you want to talk about in the tropics. There's the forecast cone. You can see it's starting to narrow a little bit over Florida. It's starting to shift just a little bit to the right at this point. There's still a chance it could go even further here. A smaller chance going here, obviously. It could go right along the spine of the state. It doesn't take much for it to jog one way or the other. And it's all dependent upon a pressure pattern. I'll show you here in a little bit. There, the water temperature I mentioned in the upper 80s all throughout that region where it's expected to travel. If it does interact with Cuba, it will certainly knock it down a couple of categories, possibly, if it stays over for a long period of time. We mentioned those forecast models. The spaghetti models are all kind of shifting to the right, and that's the reasoning by the National Hurricane Center to inch it ever so closely, a little bit further off to the right in the 11 o'clock advisory. A well-defined system, obviously. The size of the storm and the size of the winds extending out. In this direction, the tropical storm force winds extend some 100 miles out to the southwest. To the north and to the right of the center, it's about 180 miles out. So this is a big storm, tropical storm force winds. The hurricane force winds extend about 45 miles out from the center on most quadrants at this point. So that's about a 45 mile an hour. Now the diameter of the eye at this point is at 20 miles wide diameter. There's the cone. This is actually the radius of the strong winds, the red, deep red being the stronger ones, and this is the forecast. I wanted to show you this graphic to show you when the tropical storm force winds will enter into South Florida if it follows that path just after around 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and then you can just kind of project that up the coast, and you'll see that we are going to definitely, I think, get into a tropical storm watch or a hurricane watch as early as late Thursday or into early Friday. While this trough of low pressure continues to dive down, now this is going to exit stage right, but it's going to leave behind a little bit of a low pressure system in the upper level of the atmosphere right there. And depending upon how big that is, it will direct this storm either off to the north or possibly then off to the northwest right into the Carolina coast. So that's a factor at this point. Real quickly, we'll talk about Jose if we can. It's out there. It's not going to be a factor for us, but it still can go over where Irma went through recently. And this is Katia, which is a Category 1 hurricane and expected to move as a Category 2 into the coast of Mexico. So pretty amazing out there. We have 3 hurricanes. That hasn't happened since 2010. But real quickly, tomorrow looks good. time to get out and get your supplies if you haven't done them already, if they're available. Thursday, 30% chance of rain. Friday, 60% chance for showers and storms. Some of these storms could be heavy, too, before the storm arrives. Late Sunday and Sunday night into Monday, that rain chance staying high. That will more than likely bump up to 100% as the storm gets closer. Scott?